All right, here we go on this Wednesday. Yes. Boy, folks, the stories, everything is happening so rapidly. We have a great hour ahead. We're going to start in just 5 minutes. We give everyone a chance to, as I say, like file in, so to speak. Hi there, Debbie. There's Debbie. She does a fantastic job. Gian says the audio is good, and I like that. Yep. And of course, folks, we are making national headlines. Fantastic job. Yep. It was last Thursday that I broke the story regarding the Barrington teacher. It was last Thursday. 1 week ago, Charlie Kirk was tragically assassinated. But last Thursday was when we posted the Barrington teacher. And now, a week later, it has really, broken open now on a national scale as we're drawing more attention to it. And there's Lynn Miller, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, give you the latest. Also, someone that I enjoy talking politics. By the way, if you watched last night, we'll probably be out riding tonight. I think we will. Yes, I did, as a matter of fact. Thank you, Seth. Chosen one, I got a haircut. Yes, I did. There's Richard. Yep. I think it looks nice and groomed. So, yes, very stylish. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Thank you for noticing. I agree, Lynn Miller. Well, they are, the left is just on a path. Let's call it what it is. The Democrat Party right now is just absolutely on a path of destruction and violence, and they can't control themselves. You had a guy in Pennsylvania crashed into an FBI gate. Old far left, they found a bomb outside Turning Point, their headquarters, and where the vigil is going to be. And, who planted a bomb there? The trans and the far left. Right now, what we are finding in the nation, what's going on is this is really the far left and the trans, the progressives, they're just at war with the rest of the country. I mean, with the Republican Party, actually. I mean, that's what's going on. That's what's going on. Hi there, Maria. Yes, there's Bill, the big guy checking in. Yes, hi there, Brenda. Folks, we're going to start in just 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Lovely weather. Most of the time, my mindset would be I don't like September only because it brings in the inevitable, the end of the summer season and then wintertime. But this weather really is spectacular. This month so far. Hi there, Karen. Karen does a fantastic job. Oh my goodness. Folks, so many unsung heroes of Team One. And also we're going to talk about, the New York Post. The New York Post named the Barrington teacher. I named him last Thursday. I also want to clear up because there's a misunderstanding. That is the New York Post. Outrage. Rhode Island students demand that the teacher, there he is. What a piece of garbage. Oh, well, Charlie. Oh, my God. What an embarrassment that guy is. But it's not I think it'd be fair to ask, gee, how come the local media won't name him? There she is. Yep. She's the president of the Rhode Island Senate. And she's also the president there's 2 teachers unions, Rhode Island. She's the president of one of them. I know, Brenda, I love this weather. So, that's why he feels pretty safe, right? Penn Philo, what a piece of garbage. Oh, Charlie. Oh, my God. I don't think, yes, I'm telling you, Bill. I don't think there's a Mrs. Philo in the picture. But anyhow, nevertheless, yes, There he is. We posted that last Thursday. But there are some developments with it. And right now, what I thought was also terrific, and we're going to start at 106. Well, maybe we'll leave it up for a moment. Folks, good afternoon. Right now, we are live on Facebook, and we're live on, let me try this. Okay, maybe that's a little bit better instead of I'm so tiny in the corner. Let's go with this angle. This portion of the program, yes, I'm telling you, Lynn Miller, what a mug is right. He is just, oh, well, Charlie. I agree with Bill. All right, folks, right now we're live on AM 1380 on this Wednesday, September 17th. AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, you can always listen online at the website, which is depetro.com. And we're also, during this period of 1 to 2, we utilize X, we utilize YouTube, obviously Facebook. This portion of our program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. What a season they're having. Remember, right now, this is the ideal time for planting. So they carry a large selection of trees, shrubs, perennials, but they also have pumpkins, straw bales, corn stalks, gourd, Indian corn, native vegetables, local honey. They're open 7 days a week, but homegrown mums and kale are outstanding. Where are they? PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. And pop in and see them. Now, this portion of the program is also brought to you by depetro.com, and it's sponsored by the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner. Who wants drinks in the lounge? I do. Nice and stiff. Keep them coming. The Cohasset Inn. Delicious food. And what a great chef's menu they have. Something in the menu for everyone. And remember, it's also the perfect spot for a large group. You're having a gathering, reunion, big group of people want to go out, collation lunch. Someone has passed away. Sorry for your loss. You have the funeral. Where is everyone going to gather? The Cohasset Inn. They could handle a group of 30 people. They could handle a group of 50 people. I was at the Cohasset Inn one time, a collation lunch. They had 100 people. The Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue in West Warwick. So thank you, Debbie. So the New York Post with this headline, there it is. So the story's broken national. And in the New York Post story, they mention the teacher, Ben Philo. Now, you need to understand, why is it that none of our local media will name him? Ready? There she is, Val Lawson, president of the NEA Rhode Island Teachers Union. She also happens to be the president of the Senate. President of the Senate. So does that mean that that teacher and others feel that they have political protection? It absolutely means that. 100%. You know, that is one of the problems when you have the local press, the local media, and they're intimidated by her and they want to go along to get along. But I think it's fantastic that these students are speaking out. This is not a matter of free speech. I also, if you saw last night, we were live from a little after 7 till after 8 o'clock. And we were chatting with Nicole Salas, who's great and brilliant. I'm so glad so many of you get a chance to hear Nicole. And one of the things she talked about, of which local media did not, is that all the teachers showed up to support this Barrington teacher. And they showed up wearing all of their, NEA Rhode Island shirts. And listen, that's a form of intimidation. No one calls it out. Notice local media didn't mention that. And he's met with applause. And you also, look what's going on right now. I mean, they have a bomb. They found a bomb at Turning Point, right where the Charlie Kirk Memorial is going to be. You have this stooge, the coach in Barrington, who stands up and starts saying that the teacher was speaking truth to power. And, this placing him on administrative leave is really chilling speech of teachers outside of the classroom. Why is that so important? Why is that so important? And as I've stated, there's the coach. What a stooge, Jeff Turner. We got an expression. I'm an old time coach. I'm like Tim Walz. This is a chilling effect, and kids need to learn adversity. This is the same crowd that have a complete meltdown if you don't use their proper pronouns. I mean, he got up and read Union Spin. That's what happened. And there's still a lot of fallout with Charlie Kirk. And I understand, and I think a lot of people, because I see some of the comments of people saying, oh, it's he's just a podcaster. That's all it is. No, that's not it. That's not it. He's not a politician. Charlie Kirk was a Republican organizer, a Republican activist, and it's plain and simple. They didn't like the message that he was talking about. And so, as I've stated, and this can't be underestimated, you have to ask yourself, why is it Channel 10, Channel 12, the Providence Journal, aren't they supposed to be these big investigative units and everything? They can't even report the name of the teacher whose name appears in the New York Post, whose name, it's on, the Barrington High School website of all who their teachers are. And I also want to touch on that. I saw someone sent me something saying that someone was saying, I doxed. How dare you dox that teacher? They don't even know what the word dox means. And that's an example. There's a lot of times people throw around terms. They really don't even understand what that means. And I'll just explain. When you hear and someone uses the term there, doxing them, what that really is, and we've talked about this with Justin Katz, but let's just say you have an event and suddenly people say, who was this person in, I'm just going to give an example, the pink hat. Who was this person in the pink hat? And then suddenly online, they have, here's who it is, here's where they live, here's where they work, here's their Facebook page. That's an example where someone anonymously goes to like a public event, and then people start what they call doxing them. You also saw it recently with the controversy with the whole Karen at the Phillies game, that woman that took the ball away from the father that had gotten it for his son and then went storming off. And then people started saying, here's who this is. Here's where she lives. Here's where she works. This is her social media accounts. But when I put up the teacher, that's not doxing him. And all I did was put exactly what is on the Barrington High School website. That's it. That's all we put. So that's not a call to violence, and it's not, oh, you dox. These people use terms they don't even know what it is and what it means. But it should not be, the fact that Nicole Solis and myself obviously are talking about it. Obviously, it's a story. But I hope this opens the eyes of certain people of how so much of the media, they don't want to talk about it. And they're running cover for him. They won't name him. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't understand the people that are supposed to be investigative reporters, and then instead they won't even name the teacher. I didn't put, that's exactly what you're looking at. That's exactly what's on the Barrington High School website. And he, on top of that, he posted his video to TikTok, not one video, several videos. So these people that use that term, they really don't even understand what they're talking about. I want to stay on schedule here. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Propane Plus. Call Propane Plus today. What a great job they do. Remember, now this is a reliable source of energy. Propane. You can contact them online, propaneplus.com, residential or commercial. In Rhode Island, you can call them at 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus, residential, commercial, for heating or cooling, you can depend on Propane Plus. Now, I also want to just work in. I want to stay on schedule with our very valued sponsors that we have, and because we are going to talk to Pat Sweeney, but what's going on right now is the local elected officials, the state house, so far that I've seen, Brian Newberry is the only person, elected official, that is called for that Barrington teacher to be terminated. And then the same thing with, he's also said that that coach should also be terminated, right? The stooge that then started defending the teacher, even though he said, I really don't know this guy, but blah, blah, blah. But I want to remind you about J. Perry Paving. Someone asked me, this is the season, by the way. Now, remember, when the real cold weather and ice and snow hits, that's not the time that you can get your driveway paved. J. Perry Paving, free estimate, any project. Call them, request a free quote, 401-732-1730, 401-732-1730, letter J, J. Perry Paving. And remember, they have a great package for veterans. So I think right now, contact them for a free estimate. I believe that we are, in essence, I think we're at a crossroads right now with where people are with the media. It's not your imagination. People are very turned off by, and I think local media, they're surprised and almost seemingly confused at why they're getting some of the backlash that you get with the animosity that people have towards the national media. But there's certain aspects of our national media. It's so broken, and they don't even realize it's broken. Kamala Harris is going to do a big sit-down interview, I guess one of her first ones on the book. And who is she sitting down with? She's sitting down with Rachel Maddow. Like they still don't understand. No one's watching that. Rachel Maddow is there possibly a bigger fraud than her? She's one of the biggest frauds. I also want to touch on regarding with what happened with Charlie Kirk. I also want to touch on this. It's just kind of a random thought a little bit. But in all these situations, there were then, it was very violent and it's frightening what happened, and it's terrible what happened. And as a result of something like that, of course, it's very upsetting and people react in different ways. But I do want to alert people that there are people out there, and they're sending me a video. Now think of this, some woman that lives in wherever, West Warwick, some guy that lives in North Kingstown, they know what really happened. Sending me a video, oh, look, everyone has it wrong. He was killed by someone behind him. Folks, if you're one of those people, and I have a very short fuse or very little patience for people that operate that way. So no offense. Okay, so you live in West Warwick, you're unemployed, but you know who killed Charlie Kirk. And the FBI has it wrong, and the Utah State Police have it wrong, and the Department of Justice has it wrong, and President Trump has it wrong, and J.D. Vance has it wrong. So, but you live in North Kingstown, or you live in, wherever, there are people that they're aligned. It is true. They're aligned with foreign adversaries. They're supposedly right wing, but to me, they're compromised. And they're most likely on the payroll for the Kremlin. And they're trying to lead this narrative that despite what we all saw, despite the evidence that the Utah State Police have, that the FBI has, that Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, President Trump, J.D. Vance, the Department of Justice, they all have it wrong. Because it was Israel that killed. Like, I'm just telling you, you're better off not sending me this ridiculous video out there. And if you believe that, if you believe that the Utah State Police and the FBI and the Department of Justice and President Trump and J.D. Vance, if you believe that they all have it wrong because someone sent you a video, just listen, do me a favor, do you a favor. Don't contact me and don't send me the video. Go put on your tinfoil hat and go somewhere else. But don't even, again, these people, they come out of nowhere and they start the conspiracy stuff. So I also want to play, I will play the Matt Gutman piece. And a lot of people don't even understand why people would be upset at something with ABC's Matt Gutman. I mean, earlier in the radio show, we learned a lot. We learned a lot from that press conference yesterday where they go through that guy, the shooter, he killed Charlie Kirk to impress his trans lover boyfriend. That's what happened. Is it demented? Of course it is. And then, of course, this kid was unbalanced. He was then thinking of taking his own life. The parents had to talk him off the ledge and bring him in. And yeah, no, there's something, he's not alone. There are people that are like that. But for that Matt Gutman to be reading the text messages and saying, isn't that, it was very touching how he referred to his love. I mean, it's so whacked and twisted. But I'm willing to bet he wasn't, he wasn't the only one thinking that. Right? Like when Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon for Jodie Foster, I never thought, wow, I guess chivalry isn't dead. How romantic that he decided to travel to New York. Isn't that romantic of him to travel to New York and kill John Lennon to impress Jodie Foster? I mean, that never entered my mind. I'm going to play the Matt Gutman audio in just a moment. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by ServPro. Remember, ServPro of Providence, fast, thorough, professional. When disaster strikes, call ServPro of Providence at 401-941-5500. What do I mean when disaster strikes? Well, maybe you have a fire. Maybe you have a flood. Maybe you have mold. ServPro of Providence, 401-941-5500. When disaster strikes, everything changes. ServPro of Providence, fast, thorough, professional, 401-941-5500. Well, folks, good afternoon. I also want to mention this portion of our program is brought to you by Watson Materials. What a fantastic job they do. The most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. Call them 401-885-0600. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. You can depend on Watson Materials. Call them today. Call Sean, request a quote, 401-885-0600. What an incredible job they can do for your outside. It's Watson Materials. So the reason why I think the Matt Gutman situation is, I mean, to say that, to think that, this is very touching how this complete lunatic, and make no mistake about it, who was flaming up that Charlie Kirk, there's a danger here. Who was flaming up that Charlie Kirk's a transphobe? Charlie Kirk is a racist, right? Just like that Barrington coach from the other night. Well, this provocateur was looking for trouble on that campus, and he found it at the barrel of a gun. Why is that guy coaching any high school children? And then his little friend. By the way, the whole thing of the coach of the trans team, that's another story we're going to follow up on. There are some teachers unions where there's incentive bonuses if you encourage children to change gender. But that's a topic for another day. But I want to play Matt Gutman, because that text change between the shooter and then his lover, the roommate, the transgender lover, and they're in a group chat with other transgender people who can be very, very violent, who are all, that's the Democrat Party, by the way. Make no mistake about it. That is the Democrat Party. So that's what they're all about. And they can try to deny it. But we're seeing right now the amount of violence that is going on. This is Matt Gutman yesterday.
Specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate, who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was,
Yeah, really touching. When you step back, Manson was kind of romantic. Roses are red, violets are blue. If you kill these people, I love you. Yeah, as you step back, very, very, it's very touching, my love. How I adore you as I brutally assassinate this conservative Christian. Who knew? My God. How do you say that? Unless he thought it. Like, is Matt Gutman saying, my male roommate doesn't send me messages like that. The way he was calling him my love. There's something obviously wrong. This was a young individual who, to me, both him and the kid that tried to take out President Trump, I think it's far darker than that. I think they think they're playing, it's like a video game. It's now the shooter, he had, he certainly had experience handling firearms, and so he knew what he was doing. And the culture there in Utah, for anyone, if you've traveled, there's certain parts of the country, and I've talked about this, where it's the way we go to the beach in the summertime, they go hunting all the time. Certain parts of the country, the way kids around here may be comfortable playing tennis or badminton or whatever, their kids, they're pretty comfortable with hunting, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he used his grandfather's gun. But Matt Gutman, what touching! It was kind of romantic. The text messages, the way that he was, yeah, that's right. We used to. See, now they said, no, we have to listen to these people. And this is obviously a very confused young guy and willing to do that. And if you caught some of the press conference, the lover, Lance, was even then unaware what was going on. And basically his response were essentially, please tell me you didn't do this, that you didn't do this. Like, you didn't do this for me. The roommate, he is cooperating, but was really the takeaway. If you saw it or heard some of the text messages, that Lance, the roommate, the furry one, who found out that his roommate has a furry fetish, he did sound as if appalled and shocked of, you didn't do this, did you? Like, I hope you didn't do this for me. But that is what happened. All right, now folks, there is someone who I enjoy listening to politically, and he's very, very knowledgeable, and he's nice enough and kind enough to take the time to join us right now. And it is Pat Sweeney. Good afternoon, the great Pat Sweeney.
Hey, John, how are you?
Valued member of Team One on the roads.
That's right.
Pat, first of all, not only are you a successful youth coach, and I want to give you a chance to mention that, but I'd like you to just touch on some of the campaigns that you've been involved in that people may be familiar with.
Yeah, so going backwards first, I was privileged to be the coach for the Rhode Island State All-Star Little League Champions, the 12-year-old girls softball. We went on to the regionals in Bristol, Connecticut. We were able to pull off a win against Massachusetts, and unfortunately lost to Maine, who went into the finals to lose to Connecticut. But it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the girls, and CLCF, who I represent, and CWLL, this is our fourth time in 4 years winning the state. So it was a great accomplishment for the organization and the girls. As far as campaigns,
that is fantastic.
Yeah,
yes.
It was great. So my first job out of law school was with Governor Kacheri in his legislative affairs and policy office, and kind of saw how the GA worked and government worked. And John Laughlin, who ran for Congress as a state rep at the time, grabbed me to be the deputy on his campaign. And, kind of since 2010, I've been involved in law and politics ever since, and worked in the majority of the states across the country, and did some high profile races for president, Senate, Congress. So kind of run the gambit.
That Laughlin campaign, if we go backwards, not to name names, but that was a situation where John Laughlin, who I like and respect a lot, he's a friend, he was right on the money about the financial difficulties in the city of Providence. He called him out on a debate stage. The local media didn't push that as much. And then, as people may remember, Angel Tavares came in, and, the famous line, "We expected a category 3, we got a category 5. If people could, if we could have rewound the tape, John Laughlin should have won that race. And he was 100% right on the condition of the city of Providence financially.
Yeah, what was interesting about that race, we were originally running against Patrick Kennedy, and then he had some issues and dropped out of the race. And when he dropped out, Mayor Cicilline immediately called a meeting in his office and basically announced. And there was a Stop Kennedy PAC going on at the time, an outside group that was heavily invested in the race. And then when Mayor Cicilline came in, it didn't look as good. But John's a very hard worker. Kind of took the Buddy Cianci mantra of, like, he'd be at an opening of an envelope, and he traveled from corner to corner to corner in Rhode Island. And that was, for a district that's basically D plus 23, I think we were within 3 points. So, no one really saw us coming. And that was, we put that campaign together with dog hair and duct tape. That's that was a real grassroots effort.
I like that. Well, Pat, I'd like to hear your thoughts, not only obviously the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but I'm more curious to hear just some of your observations in the aftermath of, as we've seen, controversy spring up essentially from one side of the political aisle with how they're reacting to it.
Yeah, it was obviously probably one of the darkest days in the history of politics. Right up there with the assassination of Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and Charlie was a high-profile person. I met Charlie for the first time about 15 years ago. We've been friendly since, seeing each other at events, and so when you see something like that, it was almost unreal, and then it sinks in, and it's stomach turning to have a friend be assassinated at an event where he would go to college campuses and try to practice civil discourse and have a discussion about major issues on the country, and give people a voice, give people a microphone, let you practice your First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. And it's just very dark, and having to be involved for so long and speak at different things and give presentations, it's like I could have been me. I got young kids, Charlie, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I mean, it's extremely devastating. And I actually thought about a friend of ours, Travis Rowley, who started the Young Republicans with me way back during the Tea Party movement, and the number of speeches we've given at the State House and on the steps and in front of the General Assembly. I just ran into his mom this morning, and we had the same exact discussion. So it was a painful moment, and I hope that the country will kind of see this as a pivotal moment to turn and have these discussions. And I highly suggest that everyone who doesn't know Charlie Kirk that's listening, go to his Twitter account, go to the website, watch some of his debates, see how he handled himself. He was just on a podcast recently and got the question, how do you want to be remembered? And he said, I want to be remembered for my faith and my courage. And he was highly religious, spoke about, the Lord and the Bible constantly, and the life lessons that were there. And just 31 years old, just a life gone way, way too soon.
I think it is very encouraging, Pat, how now, because of his death, these chapters are rocketing on high school campuses, college campuses. I think, I'm curious to see how some of the administrators are going to handle this, because as you know, and not to go on a big rant, but Rhode Island, Massachusetts, the Northeast, Illinois, they're controlled by the teachers unions. So, the other night in Barrington, they're debating the fate of this teacher, and you had that girl get up and she wanted to do her final project about transgender and boys playing in girls' sports, and the teacher, 45 minutes trying to talk her out of it and trying to persuade her away from it. So I'm curious to see, not so much, right now, but just over the next several weeks, months, and years, how are educators going to respond to, instead of having 2 kids that may be conservative in the class, suddenly maybe you have 22 kids or 12 kids in the class. So, but Pat, I am curious also to hear, as of right now, we have 2 people running for governor. I just want to hear your random thoughts so far on this Governor McKee, Helena Foulkes matchup.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be an expensive race. I think Helena has $2 million in the bank already, and the governor has about $1 million. I think Helena is very well qualified. She had a good kickoff, got a lot of media attention, but I think the governor did a very smart move, and he had a ad already teed up for the announcement, and he was able to kind of take some air out of the conversation and change direction. And then that led Ted Nesi and some other reporters to question her about the ad. So she obviously, as a candidate on your first day, when you're announcing, you want to drive the narrative, right? So it's kind of like, this is the second time I made some mistakes, I'm going to correct them. Here's what I'm going to do now. Here's my vision. But then she had to answer some lingering questions from the last campaign, I think that was very smart on the governor's team to put that ad together and have that ready when she launched.
Do you do you think, is there a lane for a Republican candidate to go up against those 2?
I think there is. I mean, we're seeing the demographics change in CD2 on the voting patterns. We've been getting kind of more Republican. I think the Hispanic population, which are really church-going, pro-life audience, they're kind of accepting into this conservatism and this compassionate conservatism and this common sense solution for how to live your life. So I think there's definitely sectors that Republicans can jump into. Obviously, Trump is very close to labor. At the convention, there was multiple labor leaders that were there to talk about, principles in the party that, are working for them, and then how Democrats are moving away from labor, especially the trades and who they're looking out for. So I think there's definitely a pathway, and people always want change, right? So I think we're coming up on a change election. And so, we'll see what happens. But I think there's definitely a pathway for a Republican.
Now, I want to call this Sweeney selection. This is a story, Pat, maybe you've seen or you're aware of or caught your eye that you found interesting that you wanted to mention.
I'm sorry, you just broke up. What was that again, John?
I said, is there a story, before I let you go, is there a story in the news politically that you've seen, whether it's local or national, that caught your eye that you find interesting?
Yeah, I think what you touched upon before, this coach in Barrington giving this speech and trying to save his other friend, the teacher, from being investigated, which I think is wild. The left preaches tolerance unless you don't agree with what they say, and then they're not tolerant. And I think the three students that gave their speeches, that's courage, that's faith. And I just got a text forwarded to me just before I hopped on with you. And Phil Mickelson is now retweeting the kids from the meeting. So yes. We have national attention once again on Rhode Island, which is not good. So, this week we lose Hasbro, and now we have national attention on Barrington. So hopefully, 2026 changes the tides for Rhode Island, no pun intended, and the Ocean State, we start flowing in a better direction. So I think that's what we're looking for. So those students in Barrington, good for you, speaking your voice. That's what open forums are about. And, hopefully we're on for better times.
One last thing on that, Pat. What's interesting about that coach is it's my information that was basically written for him. It was all typed out. People don't do that. Most of the people you see, they have some, I've spoken at that stuff. You've spoken at that stuff. You have some bullet points in your phone. This was a full printed out speech. He used some verbiage that I know, contacted by some guys that coach with him. That was like, there's no way those weren't his words. What was so ironic about that was he was trying to say that, and he did say that by placing this teacher who mocked the death of Charlie Kirk in these videos, by placing that teacher on leave, it would have a chilling effect on free speech for teachers. Pat, the only reason I say that is the chilling effect on free speech is the fact that a young 31-year-old guy was gunned down on a college campus for holding a forum to go back and forth on ideas. That's the chilling effect on free speech, not some person that does, some highly inappropriate video. I'll give you the last word. Yeah,
the gravity of the situation was way too heavy to make light of, which obviously happened here. And as we've heard before from the left, when President Trump or someone else says something negative and they need a safety space or a place to color and play with crayons, like this is way too high of a situation, way too much gravity to be joking around about it. And then you have these kids who are supposed to be teaching children. These are the life lessons that you want to give to these kids. I think it's just outrageous, and these should be investigated. Everyone should be investigated. And if roles were reversed, if it was a Republican who shot a Democrat, the same thing would happen. So I think we have to be even here, right? There's got to be equity. But again, it's a very, very sad day. I was in DC on Friday, and being in front of the White House with the flag at half staff and all the people crowded there. It was about 8 o'clock at night, so it was dark. It was very powerful. So my prayers are out to Charlie and his family. Just a very difficult situation.
Folks, he's great political mind. Pat Sweeney, he's agreed to appear on the program from time to time. Pat, I mean it. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
All right, folks, there he is. You know, I had seen that about Phil Mickelson, and I want to pull it up. He's got a big following on X, and I'm glad Pat mentioned that. And he did highlight those kids. And I want to credit Nicole Salas. She's the one that went and recorded, and she's the one that first highlighted those children, those 3 boys that got up. And good luck trying to find any local coverage. I can't, that coach, yeah, here's what Phil Mickelson said. These 3 young men said it perfectly. Thank you for speaking up. Now, Phil Mickelson, again, almost 1 million followers. So 3 Rhode Island students are going viral protesting the Barrington High School teacher, demanding his firing after Charlie Kirk was called a piece of garbage by the teacher. It's embarrassing. It's atrocious. And those kids did do the right thing by speaking up. And I do have people that ask, where's this video? I have posted them. If you're on TikTok, I've posted his videos. He has more than one. And then there it is out here. Again, it was last Thursday. This is this teacher in Barrington. It was last Thursday that we first posted all of this.
Right now, as I do for all those farmers across the country who want socialist handouts from the government right now. This is a man who hated the LGBTQ community.
Not true.
Who hated women's rights.
Not true.
Who hated democracy.
Not true.
Who thought that he was a big man because he went to college campuses and debated young college students and thought he proved how tough he was with his words that he studied ahead of time. What a piece of garbage.
Wow.
This is what happens. I'm curious.
Again,
if we're going to want to
keep in mind that there were teachers all in their union garb who went to defend him, who made that coach and wrote out the speech for the coach. The union doesn't want this guy to lose his job. This was the other video. He doubled down.
Reach on the right today because someone who was a mouthpiece for their hatred and their bigotry met his maker. And let's be very clear. That maker is not in heaven. Charlie Kirk is not in heaven right now. There's outrage on the right today because someone who was a mouthpiece for their hatred and their bigotry met.
See, and I want to be very clear about this, what he's saying. Someone, meaning Charlie Kirk, who's the mouthpiece for us, for this administration, for anyone who might lean Republican, for President Trump, the mouthpiece. That's who he's talking about. And that's the only way that he seems
his maker. And let's be very clear. That maker is not in heaven. Charlie Kirk is not in heaven right now. There's outrage on the right today because someone who was a mouthpiece for their hatred and their bigotry.
See, hatred and bigotry. That's how he views anyone who's not a progressive Democrat. But again, why would he feel comfortable? How many stories has Channel 10 done on her and the connection? None. How many has Channel 12? None. 0. Good luck. You won't hear it. She put out the word. Don't name him. And they all just nodded. Folks, there's no profiles in courage with this crowd. Good luck. If you're trying to find a profile in courage, you're not going to find it. Not within the 401. They got their marching orders. This coach, this teacher, they're off limits. And what do? Have you seen the name? Have you seen him listed anywhere? Of course not. Nope. Oh, okay. We're not supposed to. Well, should we name the teacher? No, we got the call from Lawson, right, in the newsroom. We got the call from Lawson not to name him. So, all right. Well, we're going to scrap that. All right. Then don't name him. We'll just pretend we don't know who. Like, it's so pathetic. Folks, this portion of the program, if you're looking for different options for maybe number one, now a lot of people know Kids Club on the Pike, and they know them as the perfect spot for a birthday party or a youth gathering, maybe of a youth team, dance team, cheerleading team, football team, fall ball team, soccer team. Kids Club on the Pike is perfect for that. But they also have before and after school care, providing transportation before and after care for school age children, ages 5 through 12. Also preschool, half and full day program, preschool children 3 through 5. Kids Club on the Pike. Where are they located? Plainfield Pike, right on the Cranston-Johnson line. They are right off of 295. So if you can get to 295, which is actually pretty easy to get to, just zip off. You could drop off your child, zip back on 295, and then same thing to pick up. Kids Club on the Pike. Look for them. I share their social media. I think it's really disgraceful. I do. And I'm glad that Pat mentioned something that I want people to understand and I want to be clear on. That, and Pat, very successful youth coach, CLCF, those girls went representing the state to the tournament. This type of talk, this is where if someone said something, kids can say stupid things. Kids can do stupid things. They can say stupid things. They can do stupid things. Right now, there's a story. Someone is doing vandalism on cars, West Warwick, Coventry. I don't think that's anyone over the age of 50. Who is it? Most likely some kids. Hope someday will grow up. It's ridiculous that people have to go through it. But children, and they are still children, I would imagine, whoever's doing it. But listen, kids say stupid things. They think stupid things. They do stupid things. That's where you need the adult in the room. So if you were a coach or a teacher and something very dramatic happened, something like this, and whether people like it or not, this was a political assassination, a very violent one. Charlie Kirk died a very violent death. And there was a video that rocketed. But if there was ever a situation where someone loses their life in that fashion, regardless of who they are, that's where it takes the adult in the room, whether it's a coach or a teacher or a parent, whoever, to explain this seriousness of the situation. There was probably some kids in schools that heard the news. They weren't sure how to react, so they just started reacting in a way that was highly offensive, very inappropriate. That's where you count on the adults to explain the severity of the situation. I received a nice email from someone who listens to the program and was telling me she remembers being in school when President Kennedy was killed. And I don't remember if she said that they had access to a television, but this was a public school, and the teacher had all the kids pray and explained it was okay to, people were devastated to be sorry about it, and just, captured the moment that all these years later, this woman remembered that. And so what I find, number one, this teacher that clearly missed the mark, and I get it, what's frightening is the deep-seated hatred and resentment that this guy has towards Charlie Kirk. It's frightening in a way. He knew exactly who he was. He was waiting for this day. You're surprised he almost didn't say, my prayers were answered, that someone took this guy out. It's frightening in that way. But what I also find in the media notice, I want to thank Nicole Salas who went, but this guy, who, yeah, I'll read it, right? I'm the coach. And, this provocateur was asking for it. And this, this guy, he had it coming. Why? Because he encouraged people to vote for President Trump? That he thinks, I'm not on board with the whole transgender movement. This provocateur, he, by my count, the teacher maybe said something a little bit close to the line, calling him garbage after he was killed. But, kids need to be resilient these days and blah, blah, blah. This jerk, this guy, I can't believe.
Another teacher will think twice about expressing an opinion or speaking truth to power, not just on their own time.
Truth to power. Is that what Charlie Kirk was? Oh, so that's what the teacher was doing by doing his TikTok videos where he was mocking the assassination of a 31-year-old father. He was just speaking truth to power. And a teacher might think, I cannot get over what a clown this guy is. I really can't. The other one clearly hated Charlie Kirk, doing his dance, gloating over the death. But this coach getting up there, this is having a chilling effect for the next teacher that wants to gloat over someone being killed that they disagree with. They're both reprehensible, but in a way, this clown actually got up at a meeting, and the students are there, and he's reading a speech handed to him. Folks, this portion of the program is brought by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Now, remember, if you want to get your garage epoxied, call them 401-283-9815. 401-283-9815. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call Corey. They epoxy garages, patios, decorative concrete flooring. Get on the list now, because then when the season ends. Pickleball, tennis, basketball, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call them, request a quote, 401-283-9815. I don't know this coach. Yeah, I'll read that. This provocateur, he had it coming. These kids need to be more resilient. These kids in Barrington, if they're upset because a teacher was laughing, they need to learn more resilience. That's the lesson. This is the same crowd that they have, a conniption. A seizure, if you will, if someone uses the wrong pronouns. The transgender coach. Can you imagine? Yeah, good job. I showed them something. What an absolute embarrassment these people are. We're going to keep the pressure on, and the story's not dying down. It's gaining strength. All right, we're going to be active later, probably Road Patrol Live tonight. In the meantime, if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Again, national news about this Barrington teacher. Should be national news on these people defending him. But don't forget why that they're not going to make a move on this guy. Enjoy this Wednesday.